Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup, and we got a large haul again this week. We'll kick things off with Excalibur number 22. So where we left off with the Hellfire Gala for Excalibur, Richter and Shatterstar seem to be reuniting, and Covenant sacrificed Pete Wisdom to free Morgan Le Fay from Otherworld, from her imprisonment in Avalon. So the issue begins on Blightspoke in Otherworld. Beast is getting samples of the soil. However, the sheriff of Blightspoke has other ideas and explains that everything that grows in Blightspoke is, valuable. So Beast simply says, hey, you know what? I can just, take scans and take those scans back to Krakoa. Don't need to take anything with me. But Pete Wisdom is resurrected, and he's informed by Megan that he can't go back to England. Does not take the news well. As a Starlight Citadel, Merlin, of all people, is basically calling for open war against Witchbreed mutants. Though Monarch, Jamie Braddock, brings up an interesting thought. Just how is it that that Merlin is no longer the basically in charge of the Omniversal Magister? His daughter Roma says that Merlin himself won't tell the tale, but she would love to. But yeah, basically everyone is kind of against the idea of what it seems to be. There seems to be groups against and groups in favor. There's not so much in favor as much as indifferent. But Saturnine realizes that Merlin wouldn't be calling for this if he didn't have something up his sleeve, and she almost nicely asks Captain Britain to investigate. With Saturnine, and Betsy also makes a point of saying that she is curious to know how it is that Saturnine dethroned Merlin. And Saturnine says, well, you know what, hey, I'll, you find out what he's got, I'll tell you the tale. Pete Wisdom is not happy about not being able to go back to England. There's some intel. There's also a brief write-up about Karma and Mirage's trip to the Holy Republic of Fae. And it's explained that Merlin's tower, everything is made of iron, which, of course, is a major weakness to the Fae. So, inside the tower, they free the various prisoners, as it is explained that Merlin has tons of prisoners in his dungeons, and they get to Merlin's chambers. However, while Merlin's on there, Betsy hears some kind of voices from within. Turns out that Gambit stole a deck of tarot cards from Saturnine and uses the Wheel of I can't tell if it's the Wheel of, and uses a specific card with Longshot in the image to destroy the lock. And it works because, well, it's lucky. But Merlin shows up. Turns out that the voices they're hearing are coming from the waters of all reality. And Merlin's not happy about the fact that his prisoners have all been freed, but he does his days of taking prisoners are through. Those who found breaking and entering the tower will simply be executed instead. Richard gets them out, and they find there's an old rail tunnel beneath the tower. Gambit charges the train up with kinetic energy, basically giving it the energy to move. So, yeah. Back on Krakoa, Pete Wisdom does some research, and turns out there are four dead mutants that he's asked to have resurrected. The members of Strike. Or, well, not the members of Strike, but a handful of Strike agents. Tom Lennox, codenamed Gast. So right up, we get real name, codename Humor, and cause of death. Tom Lennox, codename Gast, Humor, Black, cause of death Jim Jaspers. Allison Double, codename Albedo, Humor, White, cause of death auto accident. Kevin Mulhern, codename Xanth, Humor, Yellow, formerly Dr. Destiny, cause of death Slaymaster. Vicky Repion, codename Rubidu, Humor, Red, cause of death Slaymaster. But they were four psychically gifted individuals who served in Strike as a side division of Strike. But after Excalibur escapes, Merlin is none too happy, and he pulls the cloak off one of his prisoners. A bearded man with red hair, unkempt red hair. And Merlin tells the man to remember, and asks to remember who he is, and the man claims that he is Arthur. And that is where the issue ends. Okay, alright, interesting setup. I very much appreciate the fact that the recent exploits of Karma, Mirage, and Otherworld were acknowledged, and it should be very interesting to see what Pete Wisdom does with his new Strike team. You know, all in all, not a bad issue, not a great issue. You know, just continuing to move things forward. Moving on to our next book, we've got Way of X number 4. Where we left off, Onslaught had been revealed to at least some members of some residents of Krakoa. But we get an excerpt from the book. Through the Temple Gate. Expansion is always impressive, of course, providing, that is, one chooses to focus on the shiny new vistas instead of the spaces between them. Lost tells their story. And it's, well, an analogous version of their story. But it is heavily implied that Fabian Cortez was responsible for the death of Lost's parents. And they have Lost is temporarily relocated to Mars, or to Araco, as with the gravity being lesser, they don't, or she doesn't cause, but she doesn't cause her equilibrium to go all topsy-turvy to the point of vomiting, so. But it turns out that the terraforming was, while it was completed, it could have been done a bit better. There are no tides on Mars. And in fact, the storms are tend to follow the moons, so dust shows up to basically get them flowing in a specific in a specific direction. In New York, it turns out that Cortez. Well, first, Nightcrawler goes to speak to Fabian Cortez, who's in New York, torturing the Gorgon. This is actually the first time we've seen Gorgon since his death in Ten of Swords. If you recall, he died in Otherworld, which means his resurrection is going to be different. Well, Cortez has increased his telepathy, and he can hear every mind in New York, all 8 million of them, New York City. You can't shut any of them out. Then Cortez figures one of two things will happen. He's either going to panic, tear off his mask, and everyone dies. But basically, Cortez is trying to kill a bunch of humans using Gorgon as a weapon. We get some field notes on Dr. Nemesis on Cortez. Sometimes a dick is just a dick. Is the final thing that he says. But Xavier and Legion meet at the Green Lagoon, with Xavier giving Legion a gate seed. But it seems everyone's a little tense. Xavier knows Xavier explained that he was afraid that Legion was the Patchwork Man, but Legion explains that no, he isn't. And he knows, in fact, who is the Patchwork Man. But it's best for Charles to not know, because the Patchwork Man knows Charles thoroughly. However, Xavier decides to take the information from Legion, and yeah, the tensions mount, and the Zorn brothers, at the behest of Legion, vaporize everyone in the Green Lagoon, as well as destroy the building itself. But Nightcrawler manages to stop the crowd that's gathered to watch Gorgon by accidentally teleporting into an ice cream cart. And now everyone, which causes everyone present to laugh. And so, all that tension and hatred bubbling up that Gorgon's feeling is replaced with laughter. And so, Nightcrawler takes Cortez back to Mars to have a meaningful conversation with Lost. And while elsewhere on Mars, the Zorn brothers plant the gate seed within Legion's mind. It's explained, as Legion puts it, every seed grows a gate, every gate opens a path only mutants can walk. And right now, what mutants need more than anything is a place where the devil can't whisper in their ears. A sacred refuge, a temple. As the gate forms within him. And that is where the issue ends. Very interesting stuff. It'll be extremely interesting to see where... This is going to be very interesting to see where it goes. I'm not shocked to learn that Fabian Cortez is a piece of shit. It's one of those things I think we've all known for. How long has Amy Cortez existed as a character? 30 years now? We've known that for 30 years. Maybe not as X-Men #1 from 91, but at least issue 2 or 3. When he killed Magneto. Well, 3 when he killed Magneto, but yeah, probably issue 3 when he killed Magneto. So yeah, we've known he was a piece of shit. That's not news. And I as much as I'm all for the redemption of mutant villains, I at the same time I don't mind the idea that there are still some who are just plain evil. They don't care about they're not villains because they were because of dealing with bigotry all their lives. They're just villains because they're assholes. And if no matter what the circumstances of their life had been, they would have always been villains. So yeah, I do kind of like that idea that not every mutant villain was, just was truly out to protect or to just wanted to live. That some just wanted to be assholes. Though with Cortez, it's hidden behind a veil of superiority. Which brings us to our next book of the week, X-Corp #3. Where we left off, Mastermind had been added to the board of directors, in part due to him helping Warren out during a fight. This issue, we focus on Dr. Jamie Madrox. We get the basic version. Grew up in Los Alamos, New Mexico. His mutation manifested at birth. He holds multiple doctorates. He also has a what's known as the Madrox workflow. There's also a weekly, every dupe that he makes lasts, for the purposes of X-Corp, lasts for about a week at most. It's explained. The schedule is Monday, duplicate team members are created and sent to departments. Reports on Tuesday, reports are checked against last week's projections to weed out error or subterfuge before noon, at which point camaraderie among the duplicate team members begins in earnest. Wednesday, midweek absorption of substandard team members begins. Departments in need of additional staff increases in size to meet weekly goals. Thursday is the final crunch. All dailies are ready on Madrox's desk by 8 p.m. Oklahoma Standard Time for Friday morning. On Friday, absorption, and he then has all the knowledge that the dupes have, which that's something we'll get to later. So, but yeah, at the technology talks in NorCal, X-Corp is present. There's going to be they're under their telecom endeavors. The activation of the ionospheric bandwidth generator. So, Monet, Wind Dancer, and Trinary go to a women in business function, which is rather, they're just kind of like, yeah, it is kind of degrading. But Monet is called away to meet with someone. Turns out that part of the ionic atmospheric bandwidth generator has 4 mutants involved: Vulcan, Bishop, Neil Shara, and Sunspot. But Layla calls Jamie. Looks like their son's about to start walking, but one of the dupes, he needs to be there at the headquarters. So one of the dupes is sent to, play dad. Turns out the meeting that Monet's been pulled into is with Sarah St. John, and she's trying to explain to Sarah that Fenners are dog shit, to put it nicely. However, turns out that Sarah's got protection against psionics, a reflector, which, yeah, it's bad. But something's gone wrong with the bandwidth generator, as the dupe is returning, but he goes to vent the energies and is destroyed. Wind Dancer and Trinary are trying to find Monet, who's gone full penance. She's controlling things. She's not ripping Sarah St. John apart. They talk some, but it turns out that, but Sarah explains that she thinks that X-Corp is missing a larger part of their market. Krakoa doesn't test as immaculately as Monet thinks. There's still so many people who don't like mutants. There are so many mutants who don't like mutants. Some mutants want to suppress their powers and not be special at all. And Krakoa does. And while Krakoa doesn't have to let them do that, someone should. Turns out that they've got a prototype for just that customer. And Sarah injects Monet with the concoction. Explaining it has some very well side effects of mutant trials, paralysis, etc. But they plan to handle those before launch. Going in, they discover Trinary and Wind Dancer discover a hole in the roof and no Monet. At 5, the presentation is set to begin, but something goes wrong and the generator does not go online. We get a backup story called Multiple Sabotage. Basically, a team of Madroxes went in to a Roxxon facility. It turns out Roxxon was doing tests on mutant subjects. And they did manage to bring it down, but yeah, Monet kind of said they wanted to make sure that Madrox had a new lab built soon. But yeah, interesting issue. Now, the big problem I kind of have, though, I mentioned the dead dupe and Madrox absorbing knowledge from absorbing dupes. Back in the later Peter David Madrox X Factor days, or in the Peter David Madrox X Factor days from 15 years or so ago, it was explained that when a dupe dies, Madrox also absorbs their information. So when the dupe died, Sunspot apologizes and even correctly was saying, "Is sorry really the right thing to say? I don't know." But Madrox says it's okay. He just really hates losing data. But that's the thing. He didn't, or he shouldn't have. If, as far as I know, his powers still work the same as they used to. It's a bit of a shock to the system when a dupe dies instead of just being reabsorbed. But yeah, it's this is not just a little thing that got kind of mentioned in a throwaway. In Messiah Complex, there was a major plot point. Because Madrox was able to do that, the X-Men were able to learn that Bishop was the traitor. Well, for that storyline. But yeah, so otherwise, Mutants of Wall Street is not exactly a grabber for me, to be perfectly honest. I am mainly reading just to get an idea of what else is going on, so that anytime there's a plot point that pops up and say X-Men or Excalibur or X-Force or Way of X that released X-Corp. I'm not just like, whoa, what did I miss? So yeah. Moving on from Krakoa to a galaxy far, far away, to a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, with Dr. Aphra, number 12. Where we'd left off, Dr. Aphra was going to Crimson Dawn's party. And Just Lucky and Ariel U were going after their old mentor, who has betrayed the Sixth Kin Syndicate. Turns out that their mentor is also at Crimson Dawn's soiree. So, Dr. Africans and Sana infiltrate in disguise, with Aphra noting everyone's there. The Hutts, Black Sun, the Unbroken Clan, even the Empire, as the miniature Sly Moore is present. But Aphra accidentally spills a drink on one of the Black Sun delegates, tries to take her necklace, explaining that it's a slider's dream. Data crystals all throughout, purple smuggling information. But the Black Sun delegate is talking with Cray, the mentor of Just Lucky and Ariel U. But while yes, Aphra was planning to steal the necklace, she didn't fail. She did leave something on it, so. But so now Aphra's able to snoop on the Feline. But a hooded figure approaches Aphra and Sana, having recognized the two, and basically kind of, hey, I need a distraction, and here's the thing. You distract everyone for me, and I won't tell everyone that Dr. Aphra's here. But Kira makes opens the auction. Cray fights Lucky and Ariel, and Jabba wins the auction by bidding 1 million credits on Han Solo. Just as Kira announces that Jabba has won the auction, however, another guest shows up. Darth Vader, who declared that Solo belongs to him. Upon seeing Darth Vader, Aphra has a panic attack and is unable to set off the distraction that the hooded figure asked for. Which brings us to our next comic, War of the Bounty Hunters #2, which takes place in tandem with Dr. Aphra. We get an idea of who all's present. Black Sun, Pikes, the Empire, the Hutts. Boba Fett has arrived on Jakara, however. and he finds a late arrival takes and basically opts to take their cloak and whatnot. But he's stopped by Bosk. Bosk and Boba Fett duke it out. Bosk loses his legs, and Fett decides that he's not going to kill Bosk. He's going to use Bosk to send a message to anyone else who wants to come after him for Jabba's bounty. The message being, don't. So, turns out that the cloaked figure that approached Dr. Aphra was none other than Boba Fett. And so he gets ready for, as the auction is going on, Fett gets ready, and we find out that Sly Moore has basically cut off everyone from bidding after a certain point to ensure that the Empire gets Han Solo. However, mind tricks don't work on the Hutts. Also, Boba Fett is not happy to learn that Jabba's willing to drop more on Han than he was willing to pay Fett. But as Bubba's about to go out there and everything, he runs into some familiar faces. Chewbacca, General Leia Organa, and a former Cloud City Baron Administrator, Lando Calrissian. They're about to settle their differences on things when Vader shows up. And that is where the issue ends. Okay, so this was actually really cool. I do love when crossovers have moments like that, where two issues come out of within the same time frame, and you basically get two sides of. You get one thing as it happened, but from multiple angles. It's actually really cool. So yeah, both Dr. Aphra and War of the Bounty were pretty solid. It's gonna kind of suck when they put that in trade form when War of the Bounty gets collected, and it's just gonna be War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha through 6 or whatever. But yeah. Anyway, moving on to our final book for the video, Aliens Aftermath. So this is not related, aside from the fact that it is set in the Alien universe, and features concepts from the Alien universe. This is not related in any way, shape, or form to the current ongoing Alien series. This is a kind of follow-up of sorts to the movie Aliens. A possible follow-up. But in 2214, a group called Renegade XM is going after Weyland-Yutani. We got fueling stations, which look rather similar to the Nostromo, but yeah, they're setting one up to blow it up, and they do. The leader of the group, Cutter, we learn is actually the orphan nephew of Vasquez from Aliens. But we get this whole story. He and his parents were en route to a colony. Something went wrong on the ships, and lots of cryotubes malfunctioned. Not his, though. So he was raised by his aunt, his Aunt Jeanette. This happened when he was 8 years old, and then his aunt gets called away on a mission. Never heard from again. Mission completely scrubbed from everything. But they stole a data core from the fueling station, went through, and they found a reference to Hadley's Hope, and to well, mainly just to Hadley's Hope. So they make their way to LV-426, send out some some missile probes. Nuclear winter, though. After the explosion of the atmosphere processor at the end of Aliens, it's a nuclear winter on the planet. So they have to do some. They're planning to do some repairs to the ship, while the rest. One of the Renegade XM people are going to do some repairs to the ship, while the rest explore the remains of Hadley's Hope. Congealed mass of xenomorphs is found at one point. Vasquez's smart gun is found. Also, the one who saved the ship is killed by a glowing translucent xenomorph. But deep within everything, they turn on the mother computer system, and that glowing translucent xenomorph goes after some of the other Renegade XM people. Turns out these things bleed a freezing corrosive. But hidden within everything is a cryotube. Turns out they were hired by the extrasolar colonization administration. They offered up some intel on getting Renegade XMs as far as they did, but they got some goods to transport. And what they're supposed to be delivering is the ultimate fuck you to Weyland-Yutani. So Vasquez turns out that, however, that one of the early, it's implied it's the first one which make it Newt's father, but at least one of the early, was exposed early on to the xenomorphs, was put in cryostasis as a contingency plan in case to get a specimen off world, and that's what they're going to be taking back. But yeah. The alien attack, the xenomorph attacks Cutter, Vasquez. He lights it up, but the corrosive blood knocks the cryotube back down to where it was picked up from, shattering the glass on it and beginning to wake up. Back at Weyland-Yutani offices. And explain, oh, well, obviously the board won't be happy about this this loss. However, it's explained that it's not a loss. Renegade XM is finished. Specimen still remains, and as the last member of Renegade XM holds his hand over the chest of the sleeper, he feels something moving within. Maybe a heartbeat? No, it's a chest burster. And that is where the issue ends. This is made for a neat little follow-up to Aliens. It's implied that a relative of Drake's is also in Renegade XM, but it's never confirmed. And the thing is, it's actually worked just fine as being, actually part of the canon, but, well, we'll see. I like the idea that the nuclear winter conditions on LV-426 have done something to any surviving xenomorphs. I think that's actually really neat. And the design is also very cool. It definitely does give off the concept of a radioactive xenomorph. But anyway, that's going to be it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box. down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off saying live long and rock hard.